attainment of arahanthood. In other words, the 4 jhanas are essential for enlightenment. Now we come to another sutta, Majimanika 108. In this sutta, Venerable Ananda was asked what type of meditation is praised by the Buddha. And he said the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. And he also said the type of meditation not praised by the Buddha is the type of meditation where the 5 hindrances are not eliminated. In other words, if you attain the first, second, third or fourth jhana, the 5 hindrances are eliminated. And it's eliminated long term. It's not just that when you are in the jhana, it is eliminated, and then when you come out, it comes back again. No. What happens is that when you attain the jhanas, the mind is so focused that these 5 things are like the lalang cut down. They become so low. So when you come out of that state, also it remains low. It is there. Sensual desire is still there. Ill will is still there, etc. But it is very low, so it's no more a hindrance. So this sutta implies that when you attain the 4 jhanas, the hindrances are eliminated. Secondly, this sutta shows that the Buddha's meditation is the 4 jhanas. It's very unfortunate. Sometime a few years ago, I read one famous monk saying that jhanas are not the Buddha's meditation. He said jhanas are external sect meditation, and he said the Buddha's method of meditation is vipassana. Unfortunately, during the Buddha's time, there was no vipassana meditation. It's very clear from the suttas. Vipassana meditation was created many centuries after the Buddha. And one of the reasons was because later monks found it very difficult to attain the jhanas, because they don't go into seclusion like the Buddha's arahant disciples. So they find it difficult to create to attain the jhanas. So they created this vipassana meditation. In the Buddha's time, vipassana is something that you practice in everyday life. The 7th factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, because it is associated with the 6th factor, right effort. To practice right effort, for us to get rid of our unwholesome states, we have to observe our mind, what we think. We have to observe our feelings. If anger, strong anger comes up, you have to observe it, you have to notice it. That way, you change your character. That is what cultivation is about. Siu Sing is Siu Sing Wei. So the type of the Buddha's meditation is the 4 jhanas. Now, another sutta is Majimanika 68. The Buddha said, while he still does not attain the delight, piti, and bliss, sukhang, that are secluded from sensual pleasures and secluded from unwholesome states, or to something more peaceful than that, covetousness invades his mind and remains. Ill will invades his mind and remains. Sloth and torpor invades his mind and remains. Restlessness and remorse invades his mind and remains. Doubt invades his mind and remains. Discontent invades his mind and remains. Weariness invades his mind and remains. When he attains the delight and bliss that are secluded from sensual pleasures and secluded from unwholesome states of mind, or to something more peaceful than that, covetousness, ill will, sloth and torpor, etc., does not invade his mind and remain. So here is quite clear. This term, attaining the delight, piti and bliss, sukha, that are secluded from sensual pleasures and secluded from unwholesome states, this refers to the first jhana. And then, or something more peaceful than that refers to the higher jhanas. So when a person attains the jhanas, these things, covetousness, which is equivalent to sensual desire, and then ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and remorse, doubt, etc., does not invade his mind and remain. That means once you attain the jhanas, these 5 things does not obsess your mind anymore, does not remain anymore. So it shows that once you attain the jhanas, these 5 hindrances are eliminated. They are reduced to such a low level that they are not considered hindrances anymore. Now, Anguttara Nikaya 9.33, the Buddha said, where sensual pleasures cease, and those who have ended sensual pleasures abide. Surely those venerable ones are without craving, cooled, nibbutta, have by that very fact crossed over and gone beyond paragatta, I say. And where do sensual pleasures cease? Secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a monk enters and dwells in the first jhana, and similarly second jhana, etc. So here the Buddha says, when a person attains the first jhana, he is without craving. He is cool, nibbutta, and then he has gone beyond paragatta. These terms, cool, nibbutta, and gone beyond paragatta, refers to enlightenment, refers to attaining nibbana. So the Buddha likens the attainment of even the first jhana to enlightenment. There is another sutta where the Buddha said that if a monk can attain the first jhana, even for as long as a finger snap, for such a short time, he is really a monk. He listens to the Buddha's advice and he eats the alms food worthily. He deserves the alms food that is given to him. So why does the Buddha say that when you attain the jhanas, you are cool? Cool, nibbutta. Nibbutta is associated with nibbana. When you attain nibbana, you have destroyed the asavas. A person who is enlightened is called a khinasava, one who has destroyed the asavas. Asavas are the tendency for consciousness to flow, because when consciousness flows, then the world arises. The world arises in consciousness. If there's no consciousness, there's no world. Yeah? So samsara, the round of rebirths, is due to the arising of consciousness. Okay? Now, the tendency of consciousness to flow is very strong. In everyday life, our consciousness is flowing all the time. We are thinking non-stop. Even when you go to sleep, the moment you fall asleep, the consciousness flows again and you start dreaming. Yeah. But when a person has attained the first jhana, the tendency of consciousness to flow stops. In the first jhana, the Buddha says he has no unwholesome thoughts. The only thoughts he can have is wholesome thoughts connected with his meditation. He's not connected with everyday life. For example, he might think, I must remember the steps I took to arrive at this stage. In other words, when you have attained the first jhana, you have attained temporary destruction of the asavas. An arahant has permanently destroyed the asavas, but you are in the jhanas, you have temporarily destroyed the asavas. That's why the Buddha says he's cool. And then the Buddha also says he has gone beyond paragatta. He has gone beyond also shows this is a very high state now. And why does the Buddha say he has gone beyond? Because when a person attains the jhanas, he goes into another dimension. He's not in the sensual world anymore. That's why there's one sutta where the Buddha said, when a person enters the first jhana, he has blindfolded Mara. He has gone beyond Mara's reach. Mara cannot disturb him, cannot see him also. You see? So That's why he's gone beyond. In the Vinaya books, there are certain states that are called Uttari Manusa Dhamma. Uttari Manusa Dhamma, Uttari Manusa is higher than human Dhammas, higher than human states, supernormal states, supramundane states. And what are these? The jhanas. Secondly, psychic powers. Thirdly, the paths and the fruits. These are known as supramundane states, supernormal states, because these are not states that a normal person can achieve. Yeah. So that's how the Buddha values the jhanas. Now, in the Digha Nikaya Sutta number 2, you can see that when a person attains the jhanas, the hindrances are eliminated long term. I say long term because it is not forever. Why? Because, for example, Devadatta, he attained the jhanas, but unfortunately he did not attain right view. That's why the other day, last Saturday, I mentioned that right view must come first. That's what the sutta say. You must attain right view before you meditate. You have not attained right view when you meditate, like Devadatta. Once you get psychic powers, the ego balloons. So in that case, he did very evil karma. So his mind was disturbed, and he lost all his jhanas. So the hindrances come back. So except for that state, if you don't create such unwholesome karmas, your hindrances are eliminated long term if you attain the jhanas. And this sutta shows it is so. In this sutta, the Buddha said, as long, Sire or Your Majesty, as a monk does not perceive the disappearance of the 5 hindrances in himself, he feels as if in death, in sickness, in prison, in slavery, on a desert journey where food was scarce and danger abounded. But when he perceives the disappearance of the 5 hindrances in himself, it is as if he were freed from death, freed from sickness, from prison, from slavery, from the perils of the desert. And when he knows that these 5 hindrances have left him, gladness arises in him. From gladness comes delight, piti. From delight in his mind, his body is tranquilized. With a tranquil body, he feels joy. And with his joy, his mind is concentrated. Being thus detached from sensual pleasures, detached from unwholesome states, he enters and remains in the first jhana. So you see, just before a person attains the first jhana, these 5 hindrances are eliminated. And the similes the Buddha gave is to make us understand that it is eliminated long term, because he is freed from his debt already, does not owe anybody anything. He is freed from sickness, he is well already, no more sick. From prison, from slavery, from perils of the desert, he has crossed the desert already. So this, when a person attains the jhanas, the 5 hindrances are eliminated long term. This is different from the other day we read the Sutta 46, Samyutta Nikaya 4638, where when a person listens to the Dhamma and he listens with eager ears, attending to the Dhamma with all his attention, at that time, at that moment, the 5 hindrances are not there. That is temporary when you listen to the Dhamma. But that temporary elimination of Dhamma, of hindrances, is enough for you to attain stream entry and Sotapanna. But this is different. This is a long-term elimination, and you can attain the second path, second fruit, etc. So this Sutta Digha Nikaya number 2 is quite clear that the 5 hindrances are eliminated long term. Samyutta Nikaya 55.40, the Buddha said, when the mind is not concentrated, Dhamma does not become manifest, does not become clear. Because Dhamma does not become manifest, he is reckoned as one who dwells negligently. So the Buddha is saying, when the mind is not concentrated, the Dhamma does not become clear to him. When the mind is concentrated, then the Dhamma becomes very clear and you can understand. So the higher the concentration, the higher the wisdom. Now we come to Majimanika 31. Here the Buddha talked about a monk who attains the first jhana, and the Buddha said, this is a supramundane state, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the Aryans. Similarly, for the second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, and the arupa jhanas, these are all supramundane states, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the Aryans. Now, another sutta, Anguttara Nikaya 3.89, where the Buddha talked about the three trainings, the training in the Adisila, the training in the Adichitta, and the training in the Adipanya. This is also the training in the higher morality, higher mind, and higher wisdom. This is equivalent to the Noble Eightfold Path. Sila, Samadhi, Panya consists of these three trainings. And in this sutta, they said that the training in the Adichitta is the four jhanas. The higher mind is the four jhanas. When you attain the four jhanas, you have a higher, more developed mind. Now, Anguttara Nikaya 4.194, utter purity of mind, Chitta Parisuddhi, is defined as the four jhanas. When you attain the four jhanas, you have utter purity of mind. Why is it utter purity of mind? Because the five hindrances are eliminated to such a low level, and the mind is so pure. In the suttas it is said that when you attain the fourth jhana, light pervades the whole body. The whole body, from the top of your head to the toes, the whole body emits light. So because your whole body emits light, even Mara notices. So when Mara notices, he will come to disturb this ascetic who has attained the four jhanas. Because he knows when you attain the four jhanas, you are near to enlightenment. And because Mara's ego is very big, he doesn't like that. Besides, when you attain the fourth jhana, your light is so bright, much brighter than his light. And devas, they measure a person's superiority by your light and by your psychic powers. So he doesn't like if you attain the fourth jhana. So, utter purity of mind is the four jhanas. In the Rakta Vinita Sutta, they talk about purity of different states, and purity of mind is mentioned, but it's not stated what do you mean by purity of mind. But from here you can see it refers to the four jhanas. Now in the Anguttara Nikaya 6.29, the Buddha said, a monk enters and abides in the fourth jhana. This state of mindfulness, when developed and cultivated, leads to the complete penetration of the countless elements. What the Buddha is saying is when you attain the fourth jhana, you can penetrate all the countless elements. That means you can understand whatever you want to know, whatever you contemplate, you will know. In fact, it is stated in the suttas that when you attain the fourth jhana, you have utter purity of sati. Your mindfulness becomes perfect in the fourth jhana. Unfortunately, there are some monks, some of you know in the book, one monk has said, what is the use of jhana? When you are in jhana, you have no sati. That may be true of the Visuddhi Magga jhana, but it is not true of the Sutta jhana. So, why I say, why I mention this, because when a person attains the fourth jhana, that mindfulness or recollection is so perfect that he can recollect his past lives. Many hundreds of past lives he can remember. That is why. So here you note carefully that when you attain the fourth jhana, you can know whatever you incline your mind to know. And then Majimanika 13.9. When a person attains the fourth jhana, when his concentrated mind is thus purified, bright, unblemished, rid of imperfection, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs his mind to whatever knowledge he wants to know, and he will know. So when you have attained the fourth jhana, the mind is bright, purified, unblemished. No, it's not dirty at all. Rid of imperfection, and it's perfect. Malleable, wieldy, that means you can use it for whatever you want to. Steady, attain to imperturbability, unshakable. Then when he inclines his mind to know something, he will know whatever he wants to know. And that's the beauty of the fourth jhana. But the fourth jhana is very hard to attain. Anguttara Nikaya 6.70, the Buddha said, "Verily, monks, that a monk without the peace of concentration in high degree, without attaining one-pointedness of mind, could realize for himself with direct knowledge in this very life the taintless liberation by mind, liberation by wisdom. That cannot be." So here the Buddha is saying, without the peace of concentration in high degree, that means a high state of concentration, he cannot attain liberation by mind or liberation by wisdom. So this again contradicts the commentaries where they talk about the pure vipassana arahant without any jhana. Here the Buddha is saying not only concentration, you need concentration in high degree, at least the fourth jhana, to attain liberation. Then Anguttara Nikaya 9.36, the Buddha said, "Truly I say, monks, asava destruction or enlightenment depends on the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana." So here the Buddha is saying very clearly that enlightenment depends on the first jhana, second, third and fourth jhana. In the Samyutta Nikaya 16.13, the Buddha talked about the decline of the true Dhamma. The decline of Buddhism is the decline of the true Dhamma. So the true Dhamma meaning the suttas of the Buddha. And the Buddha said in the future, people will not listen to his suttas, but will listen to the words of disciples. That means disciples meaning later monks who write later books. And the Buddha said there are 5 conditions leading to the decline of the true Dhamma. One is disrespect for the Buddha. Second, disrespect for Dhamma, that means the true Dhamma, the suttas. Third is disrespect for the Sangha. Fourth is disrespect for the training, Siu Sing. Like nowadays, people belittle Siu Sing. They say if you cultivate yourself, you are selfish, walking the path of the selfish arahant. That's a Mahayana teaching. But if you don't cultivate yourself, how can you reduce your greed, hatred and delusion? You cannot reduce your greed, hatred and delusion unless you practice the Noble Eightfold Path taught by the Buddha. And then the 5th condition is disrespect for concentration. And Bhikkhu Bodhi in his notes remarked that the commentary says disrespect for concentration means a person has not attained the jhanas and makes no effort to attain the jhanas. That is disrespect for concentration. Worse still, if you belittle the jhanas, that leads to the decline of the true Dhamma. In the Majimanika 27, the Buddha talked about the footprints of the Buddha, how he walked the path to enlightenment. And the Buddha said the first step is the first jhana. step is the second jhana, third step is the third jhana, fourth step is the fourth jhana, fifth step he recollected his past lives. The sixth step he used the divine eye, heavenly eye, to see beings dying and reborn according to their karma. And then the seventh step, he contemplated the Four Noble Truths and became enlightened. So these are the 7 steps of the Buddha to enlightenment. In other words, this is the real Bodhisattva path. The real Bodhisattva path is here. Nowadays, they distort the Buddha's path to enlightenment. For example, in the Mahayana, they say the Buddha cultivated paramis and became enlightened. The paramis were never spoken of by the Buddha. The Buddha never even heard the word paramis. And then the Pure Land will say, the Buddha recited Amitabha Buddha and then became enlightened. So all these contradicts the early suttas. So if we want to attain enlightenment, this is the way, at least the 4 jhanas. In the Majimanika 64, the Buddha said there is a path to abandon the 5 lower fetters. When you abandon the 5 lower fetters, you become an anagamin or an arahant. And the Buddha also said it is impossible to abandon the 5 lower fetters without walking this path. And what is the path? The Buddha said in the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. So the 4 jhanas lead to anagamin and arahant. In other words, the condition to become an anagamin or an arahant is the 4 jhanas. And the Buddha said it is impossible to become an anagamin or an arahant without attaining the 4 jhanas. That's why you find anagamins are reborn in the 4th jhana heaven or arupa heavens. Most anagamins, because they have already attained the 4th jhana, they are reborn in the Suddhavasa abodes, that is the 4th jhana. But there are some who have attained arupa jhanas, they are reborn in the arupa heavens. Then there's an interesting sutta, Samyutta Nikaya 12.23, where the Buddha talks about the dependent origination of liberation. How are the conditions needed for liberation? First, you have faith, because you hear the true Dhamma, you have faith, saddha. And then, after that, joy arises, pamoja. And then, if you practice, you will attain delight, piti. And then, after that, tranquility, pasadi. After that, happiness, sukhang. After that, concentration, samadhi. After that, knowing and seeing things as they really are, yatta buddhanyana dasana. And that will lead to revulsion, nibbida, and dispassion, viraga, and because of that, it will lead you to liberation, vimutti. So here the Buddha is saying that first you have to listen to the Dhamma, to have faith, the real Dhamma, the true Dhamma. Then after that, you practice and you get the piti, delight, tranquility, happiness, concentration. These are all connected with the jhanas. And after attaining the jhanas, you know and see things as they really are. Yatta buddha jnana dasana. This is not the only sutta. There are other suttas that also say the condition for knowing and seeing things as they really are is concentration. And once you know and see things as they really are, you have revulsion and dispassion. Just like just now we heard, once a person understands the Dhamma, he practices seclusion, he withdraws from society. So here it's quite clear the condition for knowing and seeing things is concentration. And then Majimanika number 30, the Buddha talked about the simile of the hardwood, how a person comes into monkhood and attains various attainments and he's satisfied, does not make effort to attain higher. The first one is he gains honor and renown. and then he's satisfied. But the Buddha said it's not enough. And then the second, he must practice virtue. And then after attaining virtue, also this is not enough. He should practice concentration. And then that also is not enough. Then he should attain knowledge and vision, that is insight. Then the Buddha said that is also not enough. Then he should attain higher states, first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, etc. So here this sutta is saying that without attaining the jhanas, even you attain knowledge and vision, that is inferior to the jhanas, because when you attain the jhanas, you have higher levels of knowledge and vision. Now we come to how to attain the jhanas. In the Majimanika 44, so just now it was quite clear that to attain higher levels, you have to attain higher jhanas. When you have lower jhanas, below the fourth jhana, you can only attain Sakadagamin, second fruition. When you attain the fourth jhana, you can attain Anagamin and Arahanthood. So how to attain the jhanas? In the Majjhima Nikaya 44, Chula Vedalla Sutta, it is said the four satipatthana are the nimitta of concentration. Nimitta has two meanings. One is the sign or the mark. The second meaning is the cause or the reason or the basis. So Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi has translated using basis. The four satipatthana are the basis of concentration. In other words, if you want to attain concentration, the jhanas, you need to practice the four satipatthana. This is quite clear from this sutta. And this is confirmed by the Anuruddha Sangyutta. In the Anuruddha Sangyutta 52.11 up to 24, Venerable Anuruddha was asked, what did you practice to attain the various psychic powers? And he said, it is, friends, because I have developed and cultivated these four satipatthana that I have attained to great higher knowledges. I recollect or remember 1,000 world cycles. I wield the various kinds of psychic powers. That is, one body becomes many, many bodies become one. I can appear and disappear. I can go through a wall. I can dive in and out of the earth. I can walk on water. I can, sitting cross-legged, I can fly like a bird. I can touch the sun and the moon. I can fly as far as the Brahma world. With a heavenly ear, I can hear heavenly and human sounds near and far. I can know or I can read the minds of other beings. With a heavenly eye, I can see beings passing away and being reborn. So all these, the Venerable Anuruddha attributed to the four satipatthana. By practicing the four satipatthana, he attains psychic powers. Sometimes you hear some people saying people practice the jhanas because they are greedy for psychic powers. But here he's telling you, if you want psychic powers, you must practice the satipatthana. Now in the Sangyutta Nikaya 47.8, the Buddha gave the simile of the foolish, incompetent, unskillful cook who does not pick up the sign of his master's preference. So this cook, he does not notice what his master likes to eat, what type of food, whether it's sweet or sour or hot, etc. So he does not cook according to his master's preference, though he does not get additional gifts and wages and bonuses. So the Buddha said, so too monks, here some foolish, incompetent, unskillful monk dwells contemplating body, feelings, mind and Dhamma. While he dwells contemplating body, feelings, mind and Dhamma, his mind does not become concentrated. His corruptions or hindrances are not abandoned. He does not pick up that sign, does not pick up that cue. That foolish, incompetent, unskillful monk does not gain pleasant abidings or pleasant dwellings in this very life, nor does he gain mindfulness and recollection, sati sampajanya. For what reason? Because monks, that foolish, incompetent, unskillful monk does not pick up the sign of his own mind. Then conversely, the Buddha said, monks, here some wise, competent, skillful monk dwells contemplating body, feelings, mind and Dhamma. While he dwells contemplating body, feelings, mind and Dhamma, his mind becomes concentrated. His corruptions, that is the hindrances, are abandoned. He picks up that sign. That wise, competent, skillful monk gains pleasant dwellings in this very life. He gains mindfulness and recollection, sati sampajanya. For what reason? Because monks, that wise, competent and skillful monk picks up the sign of his own mind. So here the Buddha is saying, when we practice the 4 satipatthana, in other words, when we meditate, we must see what conditions our mind likes. For example, if you practice meditation, the mind is not suited to, you cannot concentrate the mind. If you cannot concentrate the mind, the Buddha says, you are not practicing sati sampajanya. You think you are practicing sati sampajanya, but you are not practicing. But if you attain concentration and you the 5 hindrances are abandoned, then you are practicing sati sampajanya. This gain pleasant dwellings normally is used to refer to the first 3 jhanas. When you train the jhanas, you gain pleasant dwellings, pleasant abidings in this life. So this is also saying, if you practice satipatthana in the right way, the skillful way, you should attain concentration. I have no time to talk more on this. So now the difference between sati and satipatthana. Sati is quite different in my opinion, different from satipatthana. Sati is something you practice in everyday life because you need that to practice right effort, to get rid of unwholesome states and cultivate wholesome states. You need to cultivate contemplation of the 4 sati, objects of sati. You have to be knowledgeable of the Dhamma, and then you have to contemplate your mind and feelings, and then contemplate the nature of your body to cut your ego. So that is something you practice every day. But satipatthana is intense state of sati. Intense state of sati. To show this, there is a satipatthana Sutta. This is Samyutta Nikaya 47.20, where the Buddha gave the simile of the most beautiful girl of the land. The Buddha said one day the most beautiful girl of the country came out, and when people saw, people clapped their hands and shouted, the most beautiful girl in the land. And then asked her to sing and dance. And then when she sang and danced, more people came out and clapped their hands. Then a man who came along was caught, and he was asked to carry a bowl of oil filled to the brim. And he was told, you walk in the middle of the crowd, and there's a man behind you following you with a long sword. If you spill even a drop of the oil, your head will be cut off. So the Buddha said, this man is forced to carry the bowl of oil in between the crowd of people shouting and clapping. And does he dare to look left and look right? He doesn't dare. Doesn't dare to look at the beautiful girl. He only looks at the oil. So the Buddha gave this simile to make us understand that the Buddha said, I have made up this simile, monks, in order to convey a meaning. The bowl of oil filled to the brim. This is a designation for mindfulness directed to the body. So when you practice satipatthana, it's like this guy who has to pay full attention, unremitting mindfulness. Now, in the Majimanika 118, Anapanasati Sutta, this is shown. The Buddha said, monks, when mindfulness of breathing, Anapanasati, is developed and cultivated, it is of great fruit and great benefit. When mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated, it fulfills the 4 satipatthana. When the four satipatthana are developed and cultivated, they fulfill the 7 enlightenment factors, bojjhangas. When the 7 enlightenment factors are developed and cultivated, they fulfill true knowledge and liberation. And the Buddha said, how is mindfulness of breathing, when developed and cultivated, how do they fulfill the four satipatthana? Then the Buddha said, I say that this is a certain body among the bodies, namely in-breathing and out-breathing. So when you are practicing anapanasati, you're putting attention on your breath. The Buddha says you are practicing the four satipatthana. Firstly, breathing is considered a body. But the other reason I like to mention is that when you practice anapanasati, you're supposed to be mindful of your body also, not just the breath. You have to be mindful of the body. This is shown in another sutta in Digha Nikaya. Then the Buddha said, I say that this is a certain feeling among feelings, namely giving close attention to in-breathing and out-breathing. Why does the Buddha say this? Because when you are practicing anapanasati, as you progress, you find your feelings change. For example, when you attain the first jhana, delight arises and bliss arises. That is feeling. Then you attain the second jhana, you find the feelings change again. The third jhana, feelings change again. So you're mindful of feelings. So it doesn't mean you're mindful of the breath, you're not mindful of other things. This may be a bit different from the Visuddhi Magga jhana. I see that there is no development of mindfulness of breathing for one who is forgetful, who is not fully aware. That is why on that occasion the monk contemplates mind in mind, fully aware and recollected. So when you're practicing anapanasati, you're also, on top of observing your breath, you're also automatically observing your mind, how your perceptions change and all that. So you're contemplating mind in mind. Monks, on whatever occasion a monk trains thus, I shall breathe in contemplating impermanence, I shall breathe in contemplating fading away, cessation, relinquishment. On that occasion a monk abides contemplating Dhamma in Dhamma, fully aware and recollected. So when you are concentrated on the mind and you can see impermanence because feelings keep changing, the mind keeps changing. Fading away, for example, after you get piti and then you attain a higher jhana, the piti fades away. You can see cessation of certain feelings, relinquishment, you let go. So even in the state of jhana, you can see these things. But of course, when you come out also, you can contemplate Dhamma. So when you're practicing anapanasati, you're practicing the four satipatthana. So don't say that samatha practice is not satipatthana practice. And how monks do this four satipatthana, develop and cultivate it, fulfill the 7 bojjhanga. Monks, on whatever occasion a monk abides contemplating the body in the body, ardent, mindful and recollected, on that occasion unremitting mindfulness is established in him. On whatever occasion unremitting mindfulness is established in a monk, on that occasion the mindfulness enlightenment factor, sati, is aroused in him, he develops it, and by development it comes to fulfillment in him. So you see here, it's a bit different when he is practicing anapanasati. The mindfulness is unremitting mindfulness. This is practicing the satipatthana, mindfulness satipatthana. Unremitting mindfulness means the mindfulness does not run away even for a second. It does not stop even for a second, and it's always on one object. One object. When you practice satipatthana, you practice mindfulness on one object. But just now we said, when you are mindful of one object, your breathing, you are also mindful of feelings, mind and Dhamma at the same time. So this is the difference between just now that sati we heard, recollecting the Dhamma, and here satipatthana is unremitting mindfulness. Now we come to Anguttara. In the Samyutta Nikaya 35.247, the Buddha gave a simile of 6 animals. The Buddha said a hunter caught 6 animals: a snake, crocodile, a bird, a dog, a jackal, and monkey. And then he tied a rope around the neck of these 6 animals and he released them. They take off in different directions. The snake wants to go into a hole to hide. The crocodile wants to go into the river. The bird wants to fly into the air. The dog wants to go into town to look for food. The jackal wants to go up the hill. The monkey wants to climb up the tree. So these 6 ropes, after the Buddha, the hunter has tied them together and released the animals. The animals go off in 6 different directions. But whichever is strongest, he will pull, and the others have to follow him. And when he's tired, another will pull, the others have to follow him. The Buddha said, this is a simile for the unrestrained mind, the everyday mind. Our everyday mind is pulled by the 6 objects of our senses. Forms want us to see, sounds want us to hear, smell wants us to smell, etc. So our attention is always going out to the 6 sense objects. Whichever one is strongest will pull our attention. Later another one will pull our attention. The Buddha said this is the unrestrained mind. This can be said to be momentary concentration, changing object one after the other. Then the Buddha said to restrain the animals, these 6 ropes you must tie to a strong pole. When you tie to a strong pole, whichever direction the animals go, they can only go round and round that pole, until they are tired. And then they will quietly lie down beside the pole. So the Buddha said, similarly, if we want to get a hold of our mind, want to restrain our mind, we have to tie it to one object of meditation, one object of attention. For example, anapanasati, we just be aware of breathing. Every time it runs away, we pull it back. Runs away, we pull it back. Slowly, we learn to get a control, a hold of our mind. That is the way to restrain the mind. And then Anguttara Nikaya 5.26, the 5 occasions for liberation when a person attains arahanthood is listening to the listening to the Dhamma, then teaching the Dhamma, repeating the Dhamma, reflecting on the Dhamma, and during meditation, samadhi. So you find the first 4 has to do with Dhamma, listening, teaching, repeating, and reflection on the Dhamma. So only the 5th is during meditation. So knowing the Dhamma is very important. You find in the Vinaya books, the first 1,000 over Arahants which are mentioned, how they attain enlightenment, all of them was by listening to the Sutta. Because the Buddha, when he wanted to gather disciples, he looked for those who had attained the 4 jhanas. And then he went to them and taught them the Dhamma. And listening to the Dhamma, they attain arahanthood. So listening to the Dhamma is actually, I mentioned the other day, vipassana. When you listen to the Dhamma with a concentrated mind, that concentrated mind is the samatha part. And when you listen and you are contemplating the Dhamma that you are listening, that is the vipassana part, contemplation. With these 2 things, you can understand. So they attain arahanthood. So it must be, there is one sutta where the Buddha said, vows and prayers cannot get us what we want. And the Buddha gave us a simile. The Buddha said, suppose a man wanted oil, he took sesame seed and he ground it and he got oil. But somebody else was looking from far, he tried to get oil. What did he do? He took sand. He thought the sesame seeds being so small, it's like sand. So he took the sand and he ground it. He cannot get oil, isn't it? Whether he prays also, he cannot get oil. He make a vow also cannot get oil, because he's doing the wrong thing. So the Buddha said, similarly, a person who wants to get butter, he takes milk, he churns the milk. After some time, that milk turns to butter. But somebody else wants to get butter. He took water and keep churning the water. Even he prayed to Kuan Yin, also he cannot get. Make a vow to Amitabha, also cannot get. So it is the right thing we have to do. So if we want to attain these attainments that the Buddha said are important, we have to follow very closely exactly the Buddha's instructions in the suttas. If you deviate from it even a little bit, you will not get. Just like you want to reach the moon, you shoot your rocket. If you deviate by half a degree or so, you won't reach the moon. Yeah. So it's very important to know the suttas very well. And I mentioned the other day that samsara is very fearful because of the three woeful planes. So we want to get at least the first path and the first fruit, which is not difficult compared to the higher stages. And I said that it is important to listen to the Dhamma. So now I will recap basically what I said. It's a bit long talk. I have to beg your indulgence. In the Velama Sutta, I mentioned Anguttara Nikaya 9.20 that Velama, the Brahmin said long ago, there was our Buddha long ago. He said he did a lot of dana, but the blessings, the good karma was very little because there was no Arya. And the Buddha said if he had given to just one person with right view, that blessing, that merit would have been much more. In other words, a person with right view is an Arya, first path attainer and first fruit attainer. Then also mentioned that the Majimanika 117 said that if we want to practice the Aryan Eightfold Path, we must start with right view. And right view will bring you to right thoughts and bring you to right speech, etc. in that sequence. And then I mentioned that to attain the first path, we need the 4 Sutta Patti Angani, the 4 factors for stream entry. And these 4 factors of stream entry, if you don't practice them, the Buddha said in one sutta that you are not the Buddha's follower. You are external sect follower. The Buddha said you are Bahiro, external sect follower. You are not his disciple. So in other words, if you consider yourself a Buddhist, you must have these 4 factors for stream entry. Associating with true men, hearing the true Dhamma, focus attention when you listen to the true Dhamma, and practice of the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma. You practice these 4 things and then you will get stream entry. Then after you attain stream entry, you continue to practice these 4 things, it will turn to fruit. Then after you have attained Sotapanna, then you can consider getting the higher fruit paths and fruits. And for that you need the jhanas. The higher jhana you attain, the higher state, aryahood, you attain, but that is difficult. So for most people, I would encourage you to keep listening to the suttas every day. We should listen to the suttas until we pass away every day. Because there is nothing more valuable than the suttas. Only the suttas can bring us out of this long round of samsara. If we don't listen to the suttas, we have wasted our Buddha's effort to teach. I mentioned last Saturday that our Buddha is the most perfect Buddha. As Venerable Sariputta, the Arahant said, you cannot find another Buddha more perfect than our Buddha. Because our Buddha said that his teachings are perfect and complete. In other words, you cannot find a Dhamma teaching more perfect and complete than our Buddha Gautama. So even when we compare our Buddha with the past, all the past Buddhas and all the future Buddhas, they cannot be more perfect than our Buddha. Their teaching cannot be more perfect than our Buddha Gautama, because our Buddha Gautama's teachings are perfect and complete. At the most, they can only equal our Buddha Gautama. So we have to understand that and value that, because the Buddha said when he contemplated 91 world cycles, he only found 6 Buddhas willing to teach the Dhamma. So we have to wait many world cycles before we meet a Buddha willing to teach the Buddha and willing to teach the Dhamma. So now that we have the Dhamma with us, don't waste this opportunity, because most people, after they pass away, will go into the woeful plains, will go into the ghost realm mostly. You don't have to do evil, just be an ordinary person and you will go into the ghost realm. Because as a human being, we enjoy life. Right now you are in an aircon room, listening to the Dhamma in comfort. So we use our blessings, we have to be very careful. Don't enjoy too much. The more you enjoy, the faster you use our blessings. Okay, now we invite questions.
All right, brothers and sisters, any questions you may have, or any parts of the unique clarification, please feel free to ask. Oh, sure.
Venerable Sir, I just want to find out 2 things. The first one is the real Bodhisattva path. I just missed that part. What is the real Bodhisattva path? What must he do?
The real Bodhisattva path is the path the Buddha took to become enlightened. Okay? So in the Majimanika, Sutta 27, the Buddha said he walked 7 steps to enlightenment. The first step is the first jhana. Second step is the second jhana. Third step is the third jhana. Fourth step is the fourth jhana. Fifth step is recollecting his past lives. That was important because he had forgotten the Dhamma he learned from the past. When he recollected the past lives, then he recalled that long ago he was a monk disciple of the Buddha Kassapa. And all the Dhamma that he learned came back to him. Without knowledge of the Dhamma, he could not become enlightened. So that was the fifth. And then the sixth, he used the heavenly eye to see beings dying and getting rebirth according to karma. So he understood the working of karma. Then the seventh, he contemplated the Four Noble Truths. After recalling the Four Noble Truths, he contemplated the Four Noble Truths, and because of his fourth jhana, his mind was so clear, he understood so well that he attained enlightenment. This fourth jhana, the mind is so focused, extremely focused, like a laser beam. A laser beam can cut through rocks and all that, yeah. So the fourth jhana, the mind is so focused, it can cut through the huge mass of ignorance, penetrate the huge mass of ignorance, the solid mass of ignorance, and see clearly. So these are the 7 steps. This is the Bodhisattva path.
And then the other question is, you say if someone were to obtain all the jhanas, and then the body emits lights, and you also say that Mara is not happy. Will Mara absorb all the energies and essence of that person?
No. He is beyond the reach of Mara. He is in another realm from Mara. Mara cannot touch him. Mara cannot see him, but can see the light. But only when he comes out of the jhana, then Mara wants to disturb him. When he is in that state of jhana, Mara cannot do anything.
I don't know where I heard that there's people like us. Sometimes we come across something like this where your essence and your energy being absorbed by something. I do not know what is the thing. Is it true?
In that condition, your mind must be very scattered. people whose minds are very scattered, they get Kong Tao, black magic. If your mind is very concentrated, nobody can do black magic on you.
Only black magic is you will find your energy and your essence being absorbed. No other ways.
Practice concentration. But if you attain the first Arya path or the Sotapanna, I think these beings cannot disturb you. You're an Arya.
Yep. All right. Any other questions or queries? And sorry, you still got some. Yeah. Sure.
I want to clarify one thing. They say that while you're doing meditation, and then you're not pure in thoughts or whatever, can this happen? Your energy and your essence be absorbed?
Don't discuss it, and it's not important. You just practice the Dhamma like the Buddha taught, and you're safe from everything.
Okay, right. I must say this evening's Dhamma talk is fairly technical, but I believe it's really good if you could understand it and really apply it. But if you don't mind, Venerable Sir, I just want to ask you about the quite some time ago. I think I attended the other last Saturday in this session about these realms of existence. Generally, it's classified into three. One is the world of sensory perception, where it's about 10 or 11 realms, and these are the beings with a male, female. They are enticed with sensual perception. Of that 11 realm, that is one realm that's a bit questionable. It's the Asura realm. Because I remember reading these 31 planes of existence, it clearly states that in the 11 lower realms, the fifth realm is the human realm. And the 6th to 11 are the devas, the lower devas. And anything below that, there are four. Asuras, the ghosts, the animals, and the hell realm. Perhaps from that perspective, and I also remember listening to one of your tapes, and you did mention that the Asuras in some of the suttas by the Buddha, he said that the lower Asuras are like Kalakanjas, I believe, and they are already devas. So by inference, the Asuras are actually devas. Perhaps you could clarify a little bit on that?
Yes. In the suttas, you find whenever the Buddha talked about the woeful planes, he mentioned three woeful planes: the ghost realm, animal, and hell realm. Only three. But later books like the Abhidhamma and Mahayana books, they added the Asuras. The problem is, as the Buddha mentioned in the Digha Nikaya 29, those monks who write later books, they don't see the Dhamma. They're not familiar with the suttas. So in the Digha Nikaya, there are two suttas. In one sutta, the Buddha, one day, thousands of devas came to visit him, and the Buddha told his disciples, you look, those disciples must have psychic powers. The Buddha said, you look, the devas from 10,000 world systems have come to pay respect to the Tathagata. Then the Buddha mentioned the different types of devas. And then he mentioned the Kalakanja Asuras. That means Kalakanja Asuras are devas. And then in another sutta, it is said that the lowest type of Asuras are called Kalakanja Asuras. So that proves that all Asuras are devas. And in another sutta, it is mentioned that Asuras are in the heaven of the 33. And once in a heavenly year, they will rise up and fight with Sakadevaraja. So later books, they thought Asuras are fierce beings, and they like to fight, and they like to drink liquor and all that. So they thought these Asuras must be suffering. So they created ghost Asuras, and they say beings in hell, some of them are Asuras. No, not in the suttas.
Bhante, what about Yakas? Yakas belong to which realm?
Yakas should be under the lowest heaven, the heaven of the four great kings. I'm not sure whether they are also in the heaven of the 33.
Okay, just to add to that, we Chinese, we believe in a lot of fables, like the story about the monk Sun Zhang. He went to the journey of the West, and he's got 3 disciples. One of them is the Monkey King, and the other one is a human with a piglet head, and one is a Zen monk. So how do we classify these 3 disciples? Would it be right to say that they're devas or they're asuras? Yeah.
No, they're only supposed to represent greed, hatred, and delusion. And it's only a story.
Important to clarify that, otherwise some of us think, either they, because some of these fables got the white snake and all this, are these also devas or asuras, for instance?
Snakes are under these nagas. A Madam White Snake came down from heaven. So these are nagas, under the 4 great heavenly kings. In fact, devas are not all as happy as you